I'd like to introduce Mike Silcock. Mike has been working at St Patrick's College for 3 years and has been Director of Boarding since 2014. He is also Chairman of the Victorian branch of the Australian Boarding Schools Association. In recognition of his many years studying and working in boarding schools across the United Kingdom and also in Australia. He is indeed well qualified to be the Director of Boarding, St Patrick's College, Ballarat. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Mike Silcock.
Good evening to all. I stand here this evening both honoured and, if I'm honest with you all, very humbled. I somewhat feel the pretender in the room, in a room that tonight sees such a rich history, celebrating all things that have been boarding and been boarding for so many years. But I guess what always keeps my attention and always keeps my focus is the young men sat over on the other side of the room at present. Boarding has been and will always be the most important part of my life. I've had the opportunity to speak to a number of people that have joined us this evening, and certainly many here at the college have heard me say this before. I started boarding from the age of 7 and boarded for the best part of 11 years of my education, before then going on to university and then straight into a role within a house, and my boarding sort of academic career or sort of professional career continued from then. My father boarded, my mother boarded, my sisters boarded. Boarding, as I say, is my life and will continue to be my life and is my number one passion. So often I say at interview to the many parents that come, faced with that very difficult, that challenging decision to send their young boys and daughters on occasions in the past to different boarding schools. And I'm able to say to them that within myself I can empathise with the young men. I know that I always have their best interest at heart. Best interest at heart made me then think of something that Graham said before. Graham, I think a few boys on the side of the room might think that their facilities are much the same as you had in the 50s. And when you talk of the boiler room, just to give you a context of our boys, I think the equivalent for our boys would be losing the remote control to the aircon. You should never see the response if that ever happens, or if, heaven help it, a battery is misplaced. My mantra here at the college, or what I believe very strongly in, is that always to consider the betterment of the boarding experience that our boarders enjoy. Every decision we make, or I make, and that I ask our boarding staff to make, is with the interests of our boys at heart. I want them to leave this boarding facility, this boarding experience, with the same passion and love that I have. It is challenging. It is difficult. There are always times, as I say at these enrolment interviews, when there'll be ups and downs. There'll be highs and there'll be lows. There'll be times when they crave isolation. There'll be times when they want people around them. There'll be times when everything's going well and times when it's not. But that is where we, and I think uniquely so, as a boarding community, can offer the support to these young men. And when you see some of the ones that we've done tonight, the testimony given, that is the outcome, that is what we can offer and what we continue to offer. The college went through a significant review last May, and in that review they highlighted the experience, the positive experience that the boys enjoyed, but they did also acknowledge that the facilities were somewhat dated and didn't perhaps match that same experience. I was delighted with the appointment of our headmaster and his very keen and eagerness from day one to be a part of our boarding community. He and his family, which he didn't say, and I thought he might have done this evening, regularly joins us for dinner, something that both he enjoys and both the boys enjoy having him there. He was only at dinner last night in a week that has been particularly challenging for himself. And I actually said to him, I said, John, you don't come to dinner on a Thursday usually. And then I paused. I said, John, I know why you're here. Because the very reason when you get through tough times is to join us on experiences like we had at dinner and to celebrate those times and be a part of the community. How will boarding look at SPC? Well, as continued, it will be embedded within our Catholic identity and the touchstones. I've always focused on one, particularly myself in my time as Director of Boarding, and that is that sense of community and that sense of an inclusive community. I believe the new facilities that will be shortly displayed on the screen will provide an opportunity for that inclusive community. As John has said already, it brings everybody together. No longer will we have satellites. No longer will we have mixed identities. No longer will we have a mixed message. We will all reside in one purpose-built, state-of-the-art facility. Our identity will be clear, defined, and one to cherish. We will open our doors and these wonderful facilities to all to join us and be a part of the community. We will be, as John has said, as one. On the walls of one of my boarding houses back in the day, there was a phrase that resonates with me and continues to this day. And I think with all that's going on, it will not be lost this evening. And that is, we must honour the past, achieve in the present, and create a future. I believe with these new facilities that we can do just that. How will these facilities facilitate this goal? Well, as I say, a clear, visible identity. I'd like to thank again John Brodie, our college captain, for joining us this evening, giving his time, as he always does so selflessly. It's particularly pertinent tonight that John was here. His father, Jeff Brodie, our director of mission, said something to me in my very first weeks of being director of boarding that, again, always sits with me. He described boarding as the very heartbeat of this college, and I think it truly is. This facility gives identity to that heart. Some of the highlights which these 3D models might not perhaps capture this evening, but certainly there's further imagery at the back, and I'd be very keen to discuss with anybody these further details, but you'll be able to see. All of the rooms will be purpose-built, 2 to a room, with, though, the potential, and this is something that we're at the moment discussing, to actually embrace an opportunity to extend our boarding enrolment from predominantly being years 9 through to 12 to being whole college-wide and accepting boarders of a junior age and starting at year 7. One of the reluctances that we've had to actually extend that boarding enrolment policy is because what we've not had in the past is that true family sense. Given the isolation, given the satellite system, we believe coming together as one community, the potential is there to provide young men all the way from the age of year 7 through to year 12, that safe environment that John spoke of before. But aside from providing facilities potentially for those younger men, the rooms, as I said, will have 2 to a room. There will be common spaces, clear, defined common spaces. We'll open out onto a central landscaped area that exists at the moment in between McCunny and Nangle and the car park area where the main facility will be, that you can see on the screen at the moment. That will be a beautiful space for us all to continue that sense of community, come together for barbecues, activities, and again welcome others from the community, college-wide and beyond, into our boarding care. There'll be a multi-purpose room very similar to this that will facilitate both dining and again activity spaces. Time again that we can be as a whole community. There'll be family accommodation, as John has said, in the existing buildings of McCunny and Nangle, that will actually facilitate our staff to be together with their families, but be together as a whole family with us as well, which presently doesn't exist. There will also be spaces within the buildings, and here's an inside shot you're seeing now of a proposed inside bedroom design. Again, a design to facilitate all aspects of what I believe a boarding education is about. One of the things that I know that this college has got is a rich sporting history, one that we should all champion and have done with many of the people here this evening. But one of the things I say, and I say even tonight with the great people that are here, that I will not shy away from, for me it's got to be about much more than that. It needs to be about producing fine young men who can have a strong academic base, champion their co-curricula, but exist in a social society so they can manage themselves. They're confident young men, organised young men, can speak in conversation. Many men like the sort of talents that John has demonstrated, and many of my boarders over there exist as well, able to discuss and converse in adult conversation and move forward in that light. So for me, a boarding education, more than anything else, can facilitate those things. And in this facility, I believe that will be even more successfully done. I'd also like to highlight, of course, as well, very important to us as a college, the close proximity that this whole boarding community is going to have to our college chapel, a central part of an education at St Patrick's, which I think is a very much a positive to this new facility. It is, as I say, an honour to be here. It is a privilege, one that in my role as chairman of ABSA Victoria, I'm very often asked to travel to different boarding schools to offer advice and to see facilities, to aid in policy and procedural development. And one of the things that I only spoke with a couple of weeks ago with a gentleman up in Brisbane at a school that was just undertaking a renovation. I said that we were undertaking the same thing. He said to me, "Good luck." And I said, "No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward, and I feel honoured to be here at this college and to be able to, in my time, bring through the vehicle to greatness that will be afforded to the young men in this room right now and to many more to follow in the future." As I said, I'll be here for the rest of the evening, and I would welcome any conversations in more detail about the facility. But I thank you all on behalf of our current students, on behalf of our current staff, for what you're facilitating, for your support, for what you're not just here this evening and not just any financial support, but your support of the college and your support of what we're looking to achieve. We're very, very grateful. As I say, I'm humbled by the whole experience and look forward to everything that comes with it. So thank you very much.